right, here we have Shabbat. This is the Yom of Shabbat, a practice of my father's. This is the previous Rebbe speaking about his father, who was the Rebbe Rashab, Rebbe Shalom Dober. When he was traveling, even when he spent months in one place, he would recite the Tefillat HaDerech, the prayer for travelers, every day after morning prayer, but he would leave out God's name in the conclusion. That was Shabbat. Now we have today. There are three types of contemplation, meditation. In Chabad, what is Chabad? Chabad is initials of Chachma, Bin, and Dat. Chachma means concept, conceiving, and having an idea. That's Chachma. Bina is trying to understand that idea, thinking into it, the implications of it, the different aspects of it, asking questions, understand an idea. Like, for instance, God creates me, right? That's the idea. Now let's understand that idea. Let's understand the implications of it. God creates me. You can understand, you can write a whole book about what it implies, what it is, the difference between this type of the idea and how this person would look at it. But then there's what's called da'at. Da'at means taking it to heart. It's not just an idea that you can explain to others. It's not just an intellect. It becomes real. It really changes your life. So in order for these three things to be, Chachma, Bin, and Dat, you have to think deeply. You have to really think deeply. It's called contemplation or meditation. Meditation is not as appropriate an appropriate translation as the word contemplation is. Contemplation usually means to solve a problem. You contemplate, you have a problem, you're solving, how could this be, how can you contemplate? Meditation is usually, you have one sort of an idea and you just meditate on that idea to the exclusion of everything else. Okay, and however it is, using your mind, thinking. There are three types of thinking about God. One is when you study. Another is when you pray. And the other one is, one second, I'm sorry. Yes, another one is before you pray. And another one is while you pray. Now let's explain this. Now again, we're thinking about God, right? So there's three times and actually three different ways of thinking about God. One is when you learn Chassidut. You learn Chassidut and you think about the idea that the Rebbe explains. Remember, we learn how God fills the worlds, how God surrounds the worlds, how God is everywhere, how God directs everything, how God creates everything. We learn today there's these different veils, different worlds that God creates, revelations of God. You think about it and you understand the idea. And you understand the idea, the depth of the idea, how deep it is, how alive the idea is. Then before you pray, then you really start to think about the life of the idea, what it really means in a living way to life, how you would apply it to life. Or even more, how I would apply it to myself. This is still in the realm of intellect. So you think, God creates everything. How does God create everything? He creates everything through his letters. You think about this, the letters of God that makes all the different permeations and different combinations. Pretty wild idea, pretty wild. But that's, that's a really deep idea. God is creating everything constantly from letters. Okay, then that's while you're learning. Then before you start to pray, you sit down and you think, this is not just an idea. This is an idea of life. This is an idea of life. God is life. He's creating everything. He's creating me. He's creating everything. The idea becomes alive. Suddenly you realize it's not just a Kabbalistic concept, but it's a life concept. You feel the vitality of the concept. Then when you pray, you sense the godliness of it. Not just that it's a living thing and it's exciting, but you feel the godliness of it. It's the source of life. These are three rungs on the ladder of sensitivity to God. It's only by God's kindness toward us that we can occasionally sense godliness spontaneously without thinking about it. This comes by the virtue of the essence godliness which is in our soul. But that's not the goal. The goal is we should work on it, just like we're learning. Remember, in the thing, there's what's called the staff. That's above, from above to below. Sometimes you just feel, wow, God exists, God is real. But God wants it to be the maseh, also the journeys of serving by your own efforts. These three form, you have to serve by your own efforts. And that means that you feel the godliness by means of your own efforts, that God is creating me, and you feel this, and that God is the source of my life. These three forms of thinking are essential. Learn Chassidut, understand the ideas. After that, close the book, think about the ideas so they become alive, become exciting. And then when you pray, you're saying the words, you're talking to God, you feel the reality of God, that God is really creating me, really, and that God is more real than I am. You feel that, you feel the godliness. That's the three levels of meditating about God. And now a story.